Well, it is February 28th, 2013. It is 3:53 p.m. in the afternoon. In 8 hours and 25 minutes, at 18 minutes past midnight on March 1st, 2013, we mark the 1-year anniversary of the death of Andrew Breitbart. Throughout the night, all day tomorrow, and in the weeks to come, you are going to see bloggers, pundits, talk show hosts pay tribute after tribute to Andrew Breitbart. You're going to see far-right, conservative columnists and pundits praise Andrew and credit Andrew with all different types of breakthroughs in citizen journalism. You're going to hear people talking about the inspiration and the values that Andrew Breitbart imparted on those who came to know him. And most of those, if not all, if done in honesty, are going to be honest descriptions of Andrew Breitbart. But you're also going to hear and see tributes published on the internet and broadcast over the different cable news networks and the new media, where people are going to continue to throw out the name of Andrew Breitbart in everything that they want to promote, in promoting their own organizations and their alleged accomplishments and dedication to the principles and the values that Andrew showed people who got to know him. And a lot of those are going to be nothing more than bloviated individuals who have spent the last year since Andrew's unexpected and untimely death trying to profit and position themselves and jockey for status and access with different organizations and politicians and special interest groups on the back and the work of Andrew Breitbart, not because these individuals that are proclaiming to be the next Andrew incarnate have done anything other than play political games, have cut people off at their knees if they saw someone dare jeopardize or threaten the games that they've played in the past year to position themselves and to profit financially from Andrew's death and from Andrew's legacy. In the coming days, Sinclair News will be publishing articles that raise some questions that were raised last year with different organizations and individuals who used Andrew Breitbart's name, his image, and his death to promote themselves, to promote an organization or organizations as things that they simply were not. We will show that in the last year, things really haven't changed with some of these individuals and organizations. That even as recently as yesterday, today, people are promoting the various tributes that they plan to have honoring Andrew Breitbart's memory and his accomplishments and his inspiration on the heels of the CPAC 2013 conference. You're going to see where people are using Andrew's name and the names of different organizations, claiming that these individuals and organizations are sponsors of theirs, when in reality and in fact, they're not. I myself and Sinclair News in total, we have been attacked viciously by some of the very people who claim to strive to live by Andrew's model and his inspiration and his dedication to honesty, integrity, and transparency. Because we dare question the fact that while they're claiming to be Andrew Breitbart alive, they're nothing more than the same hypocrites and the double talkers and the game players and the frauds that Andrew dedicated his life to exposing. So when you listen to these tributes and you read these articles paying tribute to Andrew and remembering Andrew, pay close attention to who's writing them, where they're being published from. My first experience with Andrew Breitbart was in February of 2009. I was doing a radio interview with Pat Dollard, and Andrew Breitbart just happened to be on the line with Pat during the interview. I remember it as if it was yesterday, because I remember at that time in 2009, shortly after Barack Obama had been inaugurated in his first term, at that moment, Andrew was of the opinion that we couldn't look at the past of Barack Obama, and that trying to look at Barack Obama's past or to use his past to try to expose who the man really is and what the man really believes. At that time, Andrew said it wasn't important, that it wouldn't do any good. Well, I'm proud to say that Andrew changed his mind on that shortly after taking that position. And he realized that you have to look at the past of Barack Obama or any politician in order to be able to explain and to see what makes an individual tick, what processes his train of thought, what brings him to the opinions and the positions that he holds and he espouses. And Andrew dedicated his life, in the last 5 years of his life that I know of anyway, into insisting that honesty, integrity, and transparency be the standard no matter what side of the political aisle someone was on, whether you were conservative, Republican, whether you were libertarian, whether you were Democratic, whether you were socialist, it didn't matter. Andrew believed, and I got to know Andrew, to not only believe these things, but to live by them. And Andrew did not worry about how someone on the conservative side might approach him or try to ostracize him for exposing hypocrisy and dishonesty and the lack of transparency and integrity if it fell within the conservative movement or a Republican politician, or if it fell with a liberal Democratic politician. I wish I could sit here 8 hours before the first anniversary of Andrew's passing and say that the people who claim to be carrying on Andrew Breitbart's legacy are really doing just that. Because sadly, over the last year, and even today, so many of them are using Andrew Breitbart's name, not because they're really following in Andrew's footsteps or trying to continue a legacy of holding everyone to the same standards, of requiring honesty and integrity and transparency from all sides, but instead are espousing his name because they want to be recognized in certain conservative circles as being, worthy of the same attention and access and consultation as Andrew was. Now, I know some will turn around and say that some of the things I'm saying can only be seen as spoiled sport. But I would be quick to say, I don't think so. See, the fact that Andrew and I got to know each other, and the fact that I respected the man, and the fact that one of the last conversations we had in Washington, D.C., less than 20 days before his death, Andrew respected me. And he made that perfectly clear. And not because I'm anything special, but because I stand by what I said. I take the attacks, I take the ridicule, but I stand firm. If I say something, I stand by it 100%. And I don't waver from it. And I don't cop deuces. And I don't try to explain things away. And I don't tell people, oh, well, I can't answer that, or no, I don't want to do that interview because in order to set the record straight, it would take hours. And then to put it in context, it would take even longer. And even if I wanted to do that, I'm not sure I have time. That last statement, you'll understand in the next few days where that came from. This isn't about trying to use Andrew as a stepping stone to access to anything. Myself and those working with me at Sinclair News, and Sinclair News has been dedicated to doing exactly what we've always done, which is to tell you the truth. We don't play favorites. We don't turn around and dismiss and ignore dishonesty and fraud on the conservative side just because we may have socialized with them or something. It doesn't work that way. I learned a lot when we went to cover CPAC in 2012. And in the coming days, you will read articles at Sinclair News that tells you of the lessons we learned from CPAC 2012 on what to avoid at CPAC 2013 and why. I want people to understand if Andrew was here today, I know that so many of these people and these groups and these organizations that will be paying tribute and praising Andrew Breitbart's legacy and his insight and his devotion to confronting hypocrisy and dishonesty. Andrew would be shaking his head because they wouldn't be doing it. I want people to remember that some of these very individuals and organizations that are going to be memorializing Andrew Breitbart while soliciting donations to their various organizations so that they can grant scholarships to the next and up-and-coming Andrew Breitbart. I want you to remember, you need to question. You need to make these people accountable. But more importantly, you need to take a step back and look at what these very same people were saying about Andrew Breitbart 6 months before he died. And you will find that some of these pundits and some of these cable network programs and announcers and hosts would not even mention Andrew Breitbart's name on their show or their network because of a slight screw up in that Shirley Sherrard's video. I want people to remember that some of the very people that will be praising Andrew Breitbart, memorializing him, and telling you that you need to support them so that they can support the next up-and-coming Andrew Breitbart. Remember, these are some of the very people that would not even host Andrew Breitbart on their programs, would not even invite him to speak at their events, because they didn't want to be targeted, or they didn't want to have to explain or be held accountable for something that Andrew said. See, these are not true Andrew Breitbart legacy defenders. These are individuals who take an opportunity to gain funding, status, and position by using Andrew Breitbart's legacy for their own gain. And it has absolutely nothing to do with training the next Andrew Breitbart. You can't train another Andrew Breitbart. And this is what a lot of people do need to understand. Will I wake up tomorrow morning feeling a sense of loss, trying to figure out how it was that we were able to cope with waking up on March 1st of 2012 and finding out that a man that we had just spent an evening drinking with and talking with and discussing things with one of his longest running lifetime college friends from the liberal point of view? Yeah. Because it'll make me have to sit back and realize how many opportunists and self-centered and self-serving so-called conservative operatives, or what's the word I'm going to change operative to opportunist, because that's exactly what came out in full force from the announcement of scholarships claiming them to be tax exempt when they weren't, or promoting an organization that they promoted by saying Andrew Breitbart had recently agreed to sit as a board member. It's amazing how that announcement wasn't made in a written announcement about the organization that was passed out on a night that Andrew Breitbart was physically present and could have substantiated and confirmed that yes, he had agreed to sit on this board. We have made some enemies because we don't promote, or we don't link to certain organizations or websites anymore, simply because we see that it's not what Andrew was. And these are our opinions, and we substantiate why we've come to these conclusions with documented evidence of how people have abused and misrepresented Andrew's entire legacy in order to line their own pockets and in order to position themselves somewhere where they think they have become more important than the very bloggers that Andrew Breitbart relied on and trusted and put faith in. On the same token, I'm sure tomorrow and overnight you're going to see a host of liberal left Andrew Breitbart haters marking the first anniversary of Andrew's death with some of the same vulgar, disgusting analogies and comments and statements as they did on the day that he died. Sinclair News will continue to bring you information honestly, with integrity, and completely transparent. We will continue to hold all those that we cover to the exact same standards, regardless of what side of the political arena they come from, or what religious sect they come from, or what economic background they come from, because that's what Andrew was about. It saddens me to say that on the first anniversary of Andrew's death, some of the very people that Andrew supported and put his own neck on the line to help defend and to help calm and make things better when they were attacked, turned around and did the exact things after Andrew's death that Andrew was about exposing. It saddens me to know that people are promoting parties where they're promoting themselves as being one of the original Tea Party organizers, or where they're saying that they're carrying on the Breitbart tradition. No, Andrew didn't do that. It saddens me that even the people at Breitbart.com have dropped the ball when it comes to carrying on Andrew Breitbart's legacy. That's not Andrew's legacy that the people at Breitbart are moving forward today. It's their own individual desires for fame and popularity and status. And that's fine. People are entitled to do whatever they choose to do. But what you're not entitled to do is to attack and malign anyone who calls you out on your hypocrisy. Now, we have supported some things that are associated with Breitbart.com since Andrew's death. Some of the films that Stephen K. Bannon has put out, we've promoted them on our radio program. We've promoted them on the website. We continue to give and offer Stephen Bannon every opportunity to do interviews on any films that he has put out with Citizens United or with Breitbart. We offered Lee Stranahan and Brandon Darby, associated with Breitbart, the opportunity to come on and explain and tell their side of stories in the solicitation of fundraising, claiming that they needed monetary help to pay their moving expenses, to move their families, or to protect their families from internet stalkers. But instead we get attacked on Twitter. It needs to be known that we can't sit back and continue to allow organizations to claim to represent a particular point of view, a particular objective, or a particular position, when what they're really doing is playing one against the other to see who can get more money from whom and who can be promoted more by whom. Now, we raised issues with the National Bloggers Club and the Breitbart Scholarship Fund started by Ali Akbar and the National Bloggers Club. We raised issues and questions, and we've been asking questions. Mr. Akbar has refused to answer the questions. He has still refused to identify the board of directors for the National Bloggers Club to this very day. throughout the month of November and December after the presidential election was over. If you look at Mr. Akbar and Robert Stacey McCain and Anita Moncrief's Twitter feeds, you will see the non-stop vicious attacks leveled against me personally and Sinclair News for daring to question the great Ali Akbar and the fact that there's some questions. There's some questions that need to be answered and need to be answered even to this day about fundraising, about having individuals from different organizations like the Franklin Center or True the Vote, Heartland Institute, let's see, Vice and Victory, let's see, Pundit Syndicate, the Wills Group. I mean, look, if you're going to put people down as sponsors of an organization or an event, you're going to say that these groups, these organizations are paid sponsors. They support you. They support you so much that they're actually paying you $5,000 or $10,000 or $7,000 in cash sponsorship so that you can throw this event and pay your bills. Only to find out that these organizations that you claim are sponsors at these levels aren't sponsors at all, then you're being dishonest. And the people that are associating with you and believing in you need to know that you are being dishonest. That is not carrying on the legacy of Andrew Breitbart. You cannot say that you're raising money for Andrew Breitbart's family or to issue scholarships in Andrew Breitbart's name and say that these organizations are sponsoring these events and paying this much in sponsorships when you know they're not. Only because you want to make other organizations and people think that these groups are literally sponsoring you and endorsing you, and therefore it makes it easier for you to approach other unsuspecting victims and ask them to sponsor your event. You get money from them while being dishonest about who your other sponsors are. Come on, people. This isn't the type of stuff that Andrew Breitbart would do. It's nothing that Andrew Breitbart would ever condone, and it's definitely not continuing Andrew Breitbart's legacy in an honest, integrity, and transparent way. It's time to hold yourselves accountable. Andrew right now is looking down from heaven, and there's a lot of people I see on TV and on radio and on the internet constantly letting Andrew Breitbart's name fall out of their mouth about how if it wasn't for Andrew this, if it wasn't for Andrew that. At the same time, they're soliciting contributions to different funds in Andrew's name, claiming that this is what Andrew's legacy was all about. I don't buy it. I don't think Andrew Breitbart ever once asked anyone to donate to something or sponsor something under false pretenses. Conservatives continue to lose the messaging game because they continue to cover for each other. Look, this isn't personal against any individual. It is personal when you continue to lie and misrepresent and defraud people, and then you turn around and you call out the liberal left for doing the exact same thing that you're doing, but God help anybody that calls you out for it. Because not only do you not accept responsibility and accountability for your actions, but you do worse. It's funny, you've got Ben Shapiro talking about the Obama administration and White House bullying and threatening and intimidating people, when the people at Breitbart associate with individuals who do the very same thing. And not only do they bully and threaten and attack, but they lie and they misrepresent and they get involved in taking financial gains from these lies, from these untruths, from this defrauding. That's not Andrew Breitbart's legacy, and you need to understand and see that now. And for those of you who I know are sincere and have some sincerity in your heart when you talk about Andrew and you talk about the guy that he really was and the fact that he was someone that you could talk to and he was forthright and honest, I ask you to look deep inside your soul and find that same honesty and integrity inside yourself. And it's time to put an end to this. It's time to start making sure that Andrew Breitbart's legacy lives on, but lives on in its true form, with honesty, integrity, and transparency, and not politicking, and not lies, and not scam fundraisers to raise money for Robert Stacey McCain or Brendan Darby or Lee Stranahan or anybody else that you say has been victimized because somebody attacked them or their family on the internet. Because I'm sorry, but after this past year, no one associated with Robert Stacey McCain or Ali Akbar or the National Bloggers Club or Breitbart's people and Lee Stranahan and Brandon Darby or anyone else can ever honestly stand up and say that they have been victimized for no reason. They cannot cry and they cannot moan and gripe and beg and talk about how they're the victims of all this vicious hate, because God knows there's enough printed evidence on the internet that shows them doing the exact same thing that they're complaining about. And they're doing it to people who have done nothing other than ask valid questions about why you put something out in writing that is not true, and then when you get called on it, you refuse to answer, saying that I'm not in the legal position to respond at this time. There's absolutely no legal reason why anyone should not be able to say, yes, I lied and I'm sorry I did. I know it's sad that I have to mark the first anniversary of Andrew's death with a review of all the stuff that's taken place over the past year under Andrew's name or in Andrew's memory. But I do so because I want people to understand that's not Andrew Breitbart's memory. That's not Andrew Breitbart's legacy. And there are some people and there are some organizations out there, and some of you even have scheduled events to honor Andrew Breitbart's memory at CPAC. And I beg you, and I urge you, that between now and the time that you hold these events and these celebrations and these memorials, that you find it from within to do so in the true spirit of Andrew Breitbart, and to put a stop to the using of Andrew's name, his legacy, and his memory, and the dishonesty, and the fundraising, that's been taking place, and that you know, and yes, I'm calling it out, you know, the very groups, the very organizations that are putting on these events and these memorials and these tributes, you know that what I'm saying on this video is the gospel truth. You know who these people are. You know these people continue to lie. You know that they continue to use Andrew's name for lining their own pockets, for allowing to pay for their friends to support them and travel with them and write articles defending them so that they don't have to tell the truth or be exposed. You know this. And if you are really and truly a friend of Andrew Breitbart's, you will pull an Andrew Breitbart in these tributes and in these celebrations and in these memorials, and you'll stand there and you'll call them out. And you'll say, it has to stop here. Because if you don't, you will in effect destroy Andrew Breitbart's legacy and his work in a little more than a year since he died. And I can't believe that those of you who really knew Andrew, who really knew his commitment to exposing dishonesty and fraud and hypocrisy wherever it laid its ugly head, then you know you can't allow this to continue. Andrew is missed by a lot of people, and I know that. I'm not even going to sit here and say that I was as close to him as some of you were, because I wasn't. I can say that Andrew Breitbart was an inspiration to me from 2009 through even to this day. I can say that Andrew Breitbart was always honest with me, never judging, was completely forthright in telling me where he stood and what he thought of me and what I've said and what I've done and how I've stood behind it and how I've never once deviated from anything or backtracked. That means a lot. That's me. And that's what Sinclair News is going to continue to be. And that's why the individuals associated with us are committed to doing that same thing. And that's why they stay committed to working with us, even though they know that simply being friends with me has caused so-called conservative organizations and groups to tell them that they can no longer be associated with their organization, or sorry, that we don't have any more work that we can give you on our payroll because you're associated with Sinclair and Sinclair News, and we just can't have that because he's caused us too much pain with his reporting. It's not our desire to cause anyone pain. In fact, I think that what you should probably do, rather than accuse us of causing you pain and us reporting the facts, is don't engage in activities that are dishonest, that are misleading, that are self-serving, that are for the purpose of anything but what you claim they're for. Don't call us and give us news tips and ask us to write stories about particular candidates only to find out that you're only trying to do it because you happen to be working for and representing a candidate that's running against the candidate that you want to expose. Don't call us up and email us and ask us to give your guy or your organization airtime only to turn around and want nothing to do with us when we call and question your own involvement in activities, or when we report the facts as you give them to us, only to have you turn around and ask us, well, why did you write that? You know we can't afford to lose our connections. Andrew Breitbart was about principles. And some of the very people in the last year and to this day and moving forward in 2013 who say that they're carrying on Andrew Breitbart's legacy have no understanding of principle. In fact, they openly tell you that principle doesn't get you the money. Principle does not open the doors for you. Principle does not get you access to the people you need to have access to. One organization that's soliciting sponsors for an event that was supposed to be held last year that has been postponed and rescheduled 3 different times now. Sponsors to the tune of upwards of $50,000 each say that principle doesn't mean anything if you don't have access and the money. Well, I tend to think otherwise. I tend to think that you can do better in gaining access and support and respect and funding when you do stand on principle, and you do it honestly, and you do it with integrity, and you do it with transparency. And that's exactly what Andrew Breitbart thought too, and that's what Andrew Breitbart tried to get everyone to understand. See, Andrew and I are a lot alike in one sense. We're both crazy as hell when it comes to standing up for what we believe in and for standing by what we report and pushing to get answers even when people want to turn around and attack and try to malign us for daring to ask the questions that somebody should have asked a long time ago. To James O'Keefe, I admire and respect you, and I think you know that. To Anita Moncrief, despite your recent opinions that by reporting the truth about Ali and the fundraising practices for Blog Bash in 2012, where you and Tabitha Hale solicited the organizations that you both worked with and represented into being financial sponsors of an event that turned around and paid you 12% of the money that you solicited from your own organization. It was just reporting the facts. It was reporting exactly what you told us. I understand that you believe that it's okay to let those things slide, and I understand that you told me that you need to let conservatives clean house, themselves in private. But here's the problem. You haven't done anything towards cleaning house. Instead, you went on Twitter and you started attacking me. And you started attacking Sinclair News. And you even called out and said combat groups, war, space, hate, and war against me and Sinclair News for reporting the truth and the facts and reporting nothing more and nothing less than what you told us had taken place. It's not Sinclair News and me. It's going to cause difficulty in conservative groups and organizations that you're involved with or that others want to start from getting support and funding and getting people involved. It's the way that this little cliquish group, the same group that you said since he died, you can't even get anybody to return a call. Or anytime you ask for help, you're told that they have to check with their attorneys and they'll get back with you. See, it's about honesty. You know, you amazed me in your strength and your character in exposing acorns. And sadly, since Andrew's death, and with all of this National Bloggers Club fiasco and Breitbart Scholarship fiasco, claiming tax-exempt status, knowing not, stabbing each other in the back because you don't want people to talk about the truth. That's not Andrew. You know that. So on this first anniversary of passing Andrew Breitbart, as we mark that first anniversary at 18 minutes after 12 midnight tonight, or 18 after 12 a.m. on March 1st, 2013, I plead with every one of you associated with Breitbart.com, every one of you continue to promote yourself and organizations that carry on the legacy of Breitbart. Every one of you who clothes
street, the sound of its heartbeats fading, living on borrowed time. What will I find as I'm awoken by the sounds of a flat line? Was it mine? Was it mine? Was it mine? Was it mine? Was it seduction or seduction, confusion, creation, delusion, salvation, or have I reached my
destroy this legacy of Andrew Breitbart and would like to have. And you're only going to make the conservative movement suffer even worse losses in the coming years than what they suffered in November of 2012. It's not totally just so in the liberal tank. The conservative and the conservative message just can't get out. A lot of it is exactly what's taking place, and it's taking place even this very day. This is a direct request and plea to Ali Akbar and Blog Bash. If you have 1 ounce of integrity and honesty left in your bones, if you have 1 ounce of sincerity and belief in Andrew Breitbart's legacy, I'm asking you to go on your blogbash.org website on March 1st, 2013, and in the spirit and in honoring Andrew's legacy, I'm asking you to remove every name of every sponsor that you have listed as being a sponsor of Blog Bash at CPAC 2013, that you and I both know is not sponsoring this event. I'm asking you, in the spirit of Andrew Breitbart, remove every organization that you have listed as being a paying sponsor of this event when you know they are not a paying sponsor at all, and that the only reason their names are up there is so that you can use those organizations to appeal to smaller groups and individuals to agree to sponsor and give money to Blog Bash. If you have 1 ounce of honesty and integrity left in your body, and you sincerely believe in the legacy and the spirit and the mission of Andrew Breitbart as you claim, then you will go to that website and you will remove every individual organization that you have listed as a paying sponsor that you know is not. Let honesty, integrity, transparency, let hit you today. Let hit you on the anniversary of Andrew's passing. And let that hit, that honesty, integrity, and transparency, start anew on March 1st of 2013 and actually live and act and mold your actions in the true Breitbart spirit: honesty, integrity, and transparency. And that goes for everybody who says that they want to make sure that the legacy of Andrew Breitbart is alive and well today. If you truly want to honor the spirit of Andrew Breitbart, then let it be through honesty, integrity, and transparency. And let it be for the good and the promotion of those very principles and values, and not simply because you want to raise money for you and your friends to travel, not because you want to have access to certain organizations or individuals. Let the first anniversary of Andrew Breitbart's passing be the beginning of you doing things honestly. And that includes no longer trying to obtain payment for the introduction of someone to someone that you managed to get the contact information to through your Blog Bash. See, honesty, integrity, and transparency will serve you and everyone associated with you a lot further and a lot longer and a lot better than these misrepresentations. And that goes for each and every person who wants to stand up today, tomorrow, and at CPAC and say that they honor the life of Andrew Breitbart and they honor the legacy, and they are committed to making sure that the legacy of Andrew Breitbart lives on for years to come. Then you need to do it with honesty and integrity and transparency in the same way that Andrew Breitbart did. And if you cannot do that, then you are not honoring Andrew Breitbart's legacy or memory. But you are doing everything you can to make sure that that legacy does not live on. This is the way to remember Andrew Breitbart. Not the way you guys have been doing it for the last year. Thank you. And may God be with the Breitbart family. And for those of you who really want to pay tribute and remember a man who was fearless, who was sincere, and who was vigilant, please do so, but do so in an honest, transparent, loving manner with all the integrity that you could muster. Thank you. And Andrew, you are remembered. And there are people who will continue to strive to make sure that everyone who tries to invoke your name and your legacy will be held to the exact same standards that you would have held them to. And that's a promise from us.
The sound of his heartbeats fading, living on borrowed time. What will I find as I'm awoken by the silence of a flat line? Was it mine? 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 Is it my time? Suspended in animation, revolution or revelation, seduction or sedation, confusion, creation, delusion, salvation, or have I reached my final destination?